from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here at 5th and State. And we're already starting in on our conversation. We're glad to have with us here from Knox, McLaughlin, Gornell, and Senate, Tim Wachter, Attorney Tim Wachter. Good to see you, Tim. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
And Katie and Neil is with us here. Katie is the Executive Director of the Erie County Bar Association. Katie, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All righty. So we're a family show. We like to get origin stories. We've had Tim on before. Maybe we should hear how you came up and how did you get involved with law?
I guess by happenstance.
Okay.
I had a long tenure at HANDS, Housing and Neighborhood Development Service.
Did you grow up in Erie here?
I did.
Okay.
I grew up in Erie. Went to Villa, went to St. Bonaventure, moved to Boston for a while, and Erie sucked me back in. And I started working for HANDS in 2008 and was there until about a year ago when I moved to the bar. So
you've always kind of been in administration kind of things?
Yeah, nonprofit administration.
Fantastic. Well, that's awesome. And what was it about this position that drew you to the Bar Association? What do you think what were you looking for, I guess?
I was really just looking for a new opportunity. Some life circumstances changed for me, and I was looking for a challenge, a new opportunity. This came across my feed, and I went for it, and I'm happy I did.
That's awesome.
Most days.
In the Bar Association, how many members are there that are practicing law or maybe are retired from practicing law? Do we have that number?
That's a wonderful question for Katie.
Just over 500.
Is it over? Mm-hmm. See, that blows me away. Wow. Yeah, I mean, again, you have people that are like emeritus in their law firms, right? And so they may not be taking any more clients, but they still support.
Practicing, still holding their licenses. A couple years ago, the Judiciary, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and the Pennsylvania Bar Association got together, and they put together a license to allow retirees to continue to work on a pro bono services.
Okay.
And there's not many retirees that have been doing that, but it's probably only 3 or 4 years old, so that we're trying to get the word out about that as well, to offer that opportunity for folks who still want to be engaged, don't necessarily want to do the billing, but they need that license to keep up with the pro bono, because it's so important to give back to your community. There's
no doubt about it. I mean, do we feel, and again, how long have you been practicing, Tim? I mean,
I've been, I went to law school late, so I've only been doing it 18 years now.
Only 18 years?
Only 18,
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, would you say that the need for an attorney has grown over those 18 years by the populace?
Everything has become so much more complicated. I mean, the type of law I do, representing local government agencies, everything is so complicated, and you have to really develop a niche in order to be good at what you do. And whether you're an individual trying to interact with government or a government entity trying to support the rights and protect the rights of an individual, it is so technical right now as to how things are that we don't have enough lawyers. I think you hear
Seriously?
that. I mean, there's such a demand. We try to hire as many people and bring them back to Erie as we can. I know we have 4 students graduating from law school this year that have been our summer associates the last 2 years that are joining our firm, and there's such a demand up here right now. But the technicality kind of proves that, hey, if you want someone, to do contracts or business contracts or partnerships, you may not call you because you're specialized in this municipality stuff, and vice versa, right? Right. I mean, I've never sued anybody. I mean, if I go to court, I tell people that I'm either getting sworn at or sworn in. I've got a whole team of litigators that I work with that handle that stuff. I wouldn't even know how to do it. Because there's so many rules and so much technical. Could I figure it out? Sure. But that's not where my interest lies. So
it would take a lot of lifting versus let's go to the other specialist. Yeah.
Much like if they were going to step into my world and have to give advice on a student discipline issue or on a municipal contract issue, I know it off the top of my head.
Katie, talk about some of that, because some of what the Bar Association works with is some of these pro bono things, and also making sure all the bases are covered for representation, right? Can you talk about
Correct.
some of the services there?
Yeah, as far as pro bono, we have a couple of programs. The one that we're very proud of is called our Wills for Heroes program, where we have volunteer attorneys who produce wills, power of attorney, those estate documents for veterans and first responders. We have an annual event in November centered around Veterans Day, but we actually have one of those emeritus attorneys that Tim mentioned, Tom Menarchik. He relocated down to Virginia, but kept his Pennsylvania license. And throughout the year, he's consistently producing these estate documents for our veterans and first responders. So that's great.
And Tom, actually, he won our pro bono award last year that we presented to him at Law Day.
Right.
And it was exciting to speak to him about that and his experiences.
That's truly cool. Let's stay with the Bar Association. It's celebrating its 150th anniversary. It makes me wonder, okay, so that puts us back to 1875. Can't even imagine what Erie County was like. Well, I think we still had the gallows, right? Back then, in between the courthouse wings. But can you talk about the history, some of the highlights of the history of 150 years?
Well, I should be able to do this since I just helped our history committee put together a 280-page book on the history of the Erie County Bar Association, which will be available for sale and available at Law Day. But there's so much, and the book really does start off at the very beginning, 1875.
Would we recognize some of the names today of some of the initial members, I wonder?
Well, some of the early names mentioned in the book are, Anthony Wayne, Reed, Hurt. So that there are some names that Erieites may recognize for sure.
I'm thinking of Strong Vincent.
Oh, yep, that's another one. Yeah,
right.
Chapter 1.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he got a degree from Harvard, if I'm not correct.
I believe he did.
And then, of course, dies on the battlefield at Gettysburg, right?
Right.
So it's a rich history, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's been a significant amounts of legal issues that have been really cemented in Erie over the years. I mean, if you think about the gauge wars that we had with the railroads, and I mean, there's always a legal twinge to however those things are going to be resolved and how we're going to come to resolution of these major matters. And listen, back in 1875 in Erie, I mean, where were we? If you think about it, I think it was 1889 that the city of Erie saw the development of the Edison Electric Company, the Edison Light Company, Light and Power Company in here. And we were electrified in 1889. We had that opportunity through the dynamos that were offered by Thomas Edison. That just puts it into concept as to when that started, before the electric light. 13 years, 14 years before the electric light in Erie, Pennsylvania.
And I would imagine there were some lawsuits over electric light because there were two different companies. If I remember, if I know my what is it, the Project Algerine folks, right? I think there's the AC and the DC. I learned that in college, so I'm sure there was.
But that
some
was Back
lawsuits
in
and
Black.
things.
That was an entire different AC DC that you were learning about in college. Yeah.
Exactly. That's funny. But yeah, I mean, I think we were. We were kind of we've always been punching above our weight, but we were kind of an innovative area here. It sounds like it, even with the law, right? I mean, as far as, how many cases, in the 19th century or in the 20th century, how many, trials of the century did we have, right?
Oh my gosh. I mean, look at it. We had, just on a criminal side, we had the pizza bomber here, a bit ago. Right now, in the federal courts, they're trying what was the largest white collar crime case in northwestern Pennsylvania, at the very least northwestern Pennsylvania.
Right.
That's going on as we speak. It's amazing. As a matter of fact, on my desk in the solicitor's office up at the Erie School District, I have a lawsuit that was filed by the Erie School District against its solicitor back in the 1800s for failing to do something with tax collection, something
That's
we don't
funny.
even do right now. And I keep it sitting on my desk, the original 1800 document, just as a reminder not to screw up.
That's fabulous. Yeah. When you can't even use your solicitor to sue because you're suing the solicitor.
Yeah, they had to get conflict counsel. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm thinking of the grave robbers, right? Of the William Scott mausoleum.
Right.
I mean, there's so much history that intertwines with the law, and you get a sense of the immensity of it on Law Day. So I want to talk about Law Day in a second here. We are talking to Tim Wachter and Katie O'Neill about the Erie County Bar Association. Stay with us. It's the Joel Natale Show. And we promise no lawyer jokes during this conversation.
Oh, they're the best.
Well, you could tell them. I'm not going to tell them.
None of
Tim
mine are
Wachter is with us. Katie O'Neill is the executive director of the Erie County Bar Association. And we off the air, we're talking, and we talk literally every day about the workforce in Erie because I feel like it is one of those top three issues that we deal with here, of making sure we are engaging and giving agency as many people as we can to have a family sustaining job. And you're saying it starts with education, so you have some a special announcement for students, right?
I do. Our Erie County Law Foundation has a annual scholarship named after the Chief Justice Samuel J. Roberts. We actually announced today that we are accepting applications for that. It's for a first-year law student. The student has to be from Erie County. It's renewable for the following 2 years. So it's a great opportunity, and we do have information on our website if there's anyone out there listening that is interested in this scholarship. Last year, we didn't receive many applications at all, actually no applications for that first year. And we really want to, to help some students out. So on our website, eriebar.com, and we're accepting applications for that until May 31st.
All right, let's ask Tim about this. I mean, is no applications mean that very few people went to law school from Erie County last year, or that they just didn't know about the scholarship?
I think they just didn't know about the scholarship.
Okay.
As Katie mentioned, last year was her first year at the Bar Association, and I know that with our Law Day activities last year and having Doris Kearns Goodwin get in, I was keeping her very busy during the course of the year to get ready for that.
Right.
And so this year we're making a renewed push to make sure that information gets out. We have lots of students from Erie that are going to law school. I just don't think they're aware of it.
So to that point, then, you do feel that a healthy number of undergrads are seeking the bar. They're seeking law for a career.
I think they are. I think the number is more right-sized than it was maybe 10 or 15 years ago, that the numbers are down. I mean, you see it in university admissions. I mean, you and I have talked. I used to be a trustee at Edinburgh. Now it's Penn West. I do a lot of work with the community college. Just the number of kids turning 18 going to college is down.
It is. The population
the projections
is
down, are down.
Absolutely.
And that's going to flow over in graduate schools and the like. But we're seeing it with our summer associate program. Last year, we had 7 summer associates come in, and we're happy to have 4 of them come back as first-year associates after they graduate this year.
Well, so that's a positive move here. That, again, to keep those professional knowledge workers here in town, Katie. But we're kind of bouncing around a little bit, and we've been talking about the 150th anniversary of the Erie County Bar. Do we have any data about who Chief Justice Samuel Roberts was? Was he like do we know if he was like the only Chief Justice from Erie County? It makes me wonder, right?
Chief Justice Roberts was from the Jamestown area, actually, if I remember
was he
correctly.
from Crawford County?
Jamestown, New York.
Jamestown, New York.
And he was in charge of the Nuremberg trials, if I remember correctly.
Oh, seriously? So do we know if he practiced in Erie County?
I don't know the answer to that question, and I will be happy to Google
that. But we do know that he was the Chief Justice of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, right?
He was the chief. He was on the
U.S. Supreme Court.
United States Supreme Court, and I believe served as one of the prosecutors in the Nuremberg trials.
Oh, yeah, I know the name, but yeah, I'm trying to think of, if we, what are some of the famous attorneys that have reached, that high office there,
Yeah. Judge Roberts actually did practice in Erie County.
He did.
He was a judge of the Orphans Court of Erie County. Moved here as a child, and then did practice here before he was elected to the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. So he is an Erie guy, yes.
And it's been since this was a post-war position that he held, right? I mean, because I remember that name as a young kid, from, let's say, the 60s or 70s. But that's pretty wild.
So he was Pennsylvania Supreme Court, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Wow, I appreciate the fact check there. That's good.
Well, and that's quite an accomplishment for somebody, for one of our common courts, Court of Common Pleas judges to go all the way up to the Supreme Court. I mean, you got to mount a statewide campaign, at least, unless they were appointed back in the day. But now, gosh, what it takes to become in the Supreme Court or even the Superior Court, Commonwealth Court these days is quite a bit. We were talking about Law Day. It is May 6th at the Wachter in the evening at 6:30. And I got about 3 minutes. Let's go to what the festivities are planning to be for Law Day at the Wachter there.
Absolutely, and as a matter of fact, I was thinking of Associate Justice Robert Jackson, who was
There you go.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Out of Washington,
out of Jamestown, who was the Nuremberg. So I got my historical figures mixed up.
Well, there's a lot of Roberts.
So speaking of history, we're going on Law Day is May 6th.
Yep.
We're celebrating that at our Law Day celebration is going to be at the Warner Theater. It's the second year that we've now held it at the Warner Theater. It's going to start off with a Law Day ceremony at 6:30 p.m. where we award 3 different awards. We award our Chancellor of the Bar, our Liberty Bell Award, and our Pro Bono Award. Chancellor of the Bar, of course, is an individual who's dedicated their career to the Bar Association, the rule of law, and celebrating and promoting their community. The Liberty Bell Award is what we give to, I call our civilian awardee. That would be an individual who is not a lawyer, but has supported our community and justice throughout Erie County. And then Pro Bono is just that, where we celebrate a lawyer who has gone above and beyond in their efforts to support a case in a pro bono manner. So the awardees are not yet public, I believe. Is that true, or is it public information?
I suppose it could be.
Well, let's wait and announce later.
Not yet public information. We actually sat in the car prior to this interview today, and we called the winners.
Oh, did you call the winners?
And just told them. So
we could break news if you wish.
It depends on if they listen to their voicemails yet, I think. Whether or not we can.
I heard you on the radio.
We'll give it a few days.
All right, that sounds good.
But our the American Bar Association every year sets a theme for Law Day. This year's Law Day is the Constitution's promise out of many one, in which we are discussing the preamble, the framework of our Constitution, where we ensure our engagement in representative government and having an engaged citizenry and how important that is. And it really all comes down to a discussion of the rule of law in our society and ensuring that we preserve that through ensuring that people have due process rights. We ensure that through making sure that the process of going through the legal system is one that is as blind as Lady Justice is shown to be. And in doing that this year, we are bringing in Dr. Greg Jackson, who's a podcaster. He's a professor from Utah, and he presents what's a presentation known as History That Doesn't Suck. And he's going to give 100 years of history in a multimedia musical performance.
Oh, really?
I went and I had the opportunity to be a guest of his in Cleveland, a sold-out performance in Cleveland. And when I saw that, we said we had to invite him to come in and do this in Erie. So he presents on 100 years of history, United States history, and we're going to try to weave that into how important that is with the rule of law. And by understanding where we came from, it helps us understand where we are and where we need to go as a nation.
There's no doubt about it. And when you think about, one of the other hats that you're wearing is America 250.
Correct.
This really fits well with all of that,
It absolutely fits well. So next year is the semi-quincentennial. It is 2026 is the semi-quincentennial for the United States of America. Of course, Joel, as we've talked before, the bicentennial is 1976. That was a big deal where the nation had offered a quarter. There's a bicentennial quarter that we've all seen. Gosh darn it, I want $50 this time. So we're going to go for that.
We're going to go to our news break here. We're talking about the law and the Erie County Bar Association celebrating 150 years this year. Stay with us. when you're getting represented in court, you want an attorney with the eye of the tiger. And we're talking about the Erie County Bar Association celebrating their 150th anniversary of the founding. And it's also Erie County Law Day time here. Attorney Tim Wachter from Knox, McLaughlin, Gornell, and Senna is with us. Also, Katie O'Neill, the executive director of the Erie County Bar Association, is with us here. 150 years. Tell us about what an undertaking writing that book was for you. And it's published, right? It's going to be available within the month.
It is. I cannot take credit for writing the book. We had a wonderful committee of about 20 people that wrote chapters, 26 chapters. I was just responsible for formatting the book, and we used a self-publisher. So,
nice.
Yeah, so I got it all packaged together and looking pretty, and it's a great book. We got our demo copy just yesterday, and it looks great. So I'm excited to have that available for our members and anyone else interested in the history of the Bar Association.
Very cool. You had mentioned that there's over 500 members of the Erie County Bar, and that's really remarkable because, again, everybody needs a lawyer these days, for one reason or the other, right? Because the rule of law is supreme, right?
Absolutely. It's one of the the three branches of our government, where we have the judiciary, we have the executive, and we have the legislative, and each one of them is a check and balance on the other. And it's important that each plays their role to make sure that our representative democracy continues to survive.
It's not the cheapest date. I mean, when you think about what it takes to run the judiciary, even on a county level, right? You have, what are we up to, 9 common pleas judges? I think that's what it is.
That sounds about right.
And of course, you have a whole fleet of DAs, led by Elizabeth Hers, assistant DAs and so on. You have public defenders. You have private defenders. You have people that specialize, for orphans court or family court or, drug court. I mean, you think about, veterans court. There's all of these little issues, right? Then you have now over on the Fed side, you've got people becoming Americans, taking the oath, and of course you have this huge, like you say, this FBI and U.S. attorney adjudicated, fraud case that's going on right now. There's a lot in the law right now. It's big news.
It's huge news, and really what we need to focus on, and the discussion needs to be on, is the protection of rights. So in our country, we have a unique country, a unique system of government where the people, right, the preamble of the United States Constitution, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, grant these powers to the government. And as part of that promise, that social compact, we are ensuring that people have due process rights, and that if you're going to be charged with the crime, if you're going to have your rights, privileges, or immunities restricted or removed in some way, that you have the opportunity for redress. You may not like the decision of the courts, so you can appeal it. And then you can appeal that appeal. And you can go all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. Everybody has that opportunity to do that if the cases continue to get selected, to ensure that your rights are protected, because that is the supreme value in this country. And to make sure that we have those opportunities for due process is what the judiciary is there for. And really what the Bar Association stand for is to ensure that everyone has that opportunity to participate equally.
Do you feel that there is a public conversation going on about the rule of law and due process right now? Is it under attack?
I think that there are groups that would like to frame it that way. I think that there are groups that claim that if they're not winning in the courts, that the problem is the courts and not the case. I think that is unhealthy for a democracy, for a representative democracy such as ours. Federal judges are appointed for a lifetime so that they can be immune to the political winds, so that they can focus on the rule of law without concern to whether they're going to continue to be employed. And we need to be focusing on the decisions that are coming out of the courts and ensuring that folks have that opportunity to appeal if they disagree with that.
Yeah.
And not throw the baby out with the bathwater, not throw the judge out because we don't like the decision. Appeal it and get a decision, and advocate for a decision that you would hopefully get that if you're on the other side.
Yeah. It seems to me that there's questions about what is appropriate, First Amendment rights. I mean, you think about where the First Amendment's at right now, and you think about where, there's an accusation that there's prosecutors out there that just blow people in, they process them, and a criminal is out on the street. I mean, there's just a lot of takes on what's going on with the law right now, both in criminal, in civil, in all kinds of things, really.
I mean, if you think about
immigration law,
you think about the countries around the world, not everybody has an opportunity to choose the prosecutor.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
we can go out and we can elect the individual that's going to serve as prosecutor to prosecute the laws, to enforce the laws. If you don't like the way they're doing it, if you don't like the philosophies they're bringing in, throw the bum out in the next election.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the system of representative democracy that we have. And then on the other side, you have the public defenders. Is every individual who is represented by a public defender innocent? No. But why are we doing that? The public defender's role is to ensure that their rights are protected and that they have every opportunity to ensure that they're given that due process during the process of the prosecution. It's not always to prove the innocence. It's to make sure that the government is meeting their burden of proving guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's the role that those lawyers are playing. It's a very vital role in our system of government and in our system of jurisprudence.
Is there it would be interesting to be a fly on the wall in a advanced class at a law school these days. If some of the common attitudes have changed over the years, or are they pretty much, the same as, what was it, The Paper Chase? Did you ever see that movie? That's really predating you, I think.
Was that in color? I know the premise. I don't know that I've sat down and saw the movie.
Yeah.
I went to law school late. I was the old married man in law school, so I handled the pressures a little differently.
Sure, yeah.
But when my wife and I had parties, we'd serve hors d'oeuvres, not move the furniture out of the first floor of the house. So it was a little different. But yes, I know that those discussions and the philosophy of law, the rationale behind it, to help people to understand. I mean, if you think about it, John Adams, the second president of the United States of America, one of the revolutionaries, one of the founding fathers of our nation, people would probably be shocked to hear that he defended the British soldiers involved in the Boston Massacre. And why is that? He was so opposed to the British at that point. He was a revolutionary.
Exactly.
But yet it was the rule of law and ensuring that they had their rights protected that was the prevailing interest at that time. And that really flows through with the founding of our nation and the founding government documents that we have.
Something tells me that we kind of throw terms around too loosely, like we're under a constitutional crisis, or, here we are, we're celebrating 150 years of the Erie County Bar. We're about to celebrate 250 years since the Declaration of Independence. I don't know, we're at 240 or so for the Constitution, right? I feel like we've been under worse stress than this current generation, this current moment. Do you agree or disagree, do you think?
I absolutely agree. I mean, if you think about it, even the Supreme Court of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is the oldest appellate court in the country, over 300 years old now.
Oh, my gosh.
1722, they were established before our nation. And if you think about everything that we've gone through as a country, whether it was the Revolution, the establishment of the country, my God, the Civil War, and whether the preservation of our democracy, the laws that were put in place then, the protections that are put in place to ensure that the rule of law would be able to prevail. I mean, we've seen some really tough times in this country. Are we in a constitutional crisis? Oh, heck no, we're not in a constitutional crisis. The process is playing out. Don't listen to all the news. Everybody's got a spin on things, but we're in a constitutional crisis when the Supreme Court makes a ruling and it is fully disregarded. That is when I see a constitutional crisis occurring, not when you don't like the decision, because if you don't like the decision, appeal it.
Right.
But when we get to the point where one of the branches of government is not able to adequately function as a check against another, that's when we're talking about a constitutional crisis. We're far from that.
And you would hope that the other, if we were talking about a executive judicial branch conflict, you would hope that the legislative branch would weigh in and bring its power. Again, this is how it's supposed to be, that kind of...
This is absolutely how it's all supposed to be. And I mean, there was a movie out there when, the courts did something, and I think the decision was, well, let their army enforce it. I mean, what are you supposed to do? I mean, our government functions on the understanding of the different roles and ensuring that we're going to represent those and preserve those. And that's why we've succeeded for 250 years. Our Constitution was written with the expectation that at some point things were going to change. At some point things were going to go wrong, that the world was going to change and our worldview was going to change. And that's why we have this thing called amendments. And we have the opportunity for the courts to view the Constitution through either strict constructionalists, or you have people who are looking at it through the lens of today, or however it works, and we interpret that document for what we believe how the law should be interpreted today and in the future. And if we get it wrong, pass a new law, get a constitutional amendment. We have the powers to do that, to be able to flux with the reality of the world. I mean, you think about it, 150 years for the Erie County Bar Association. Christine McClure is an attorney at my firm. She's not fully retired, but I see her from time to time still in the office. She was the first female sworn into the Erie County Bar Association.
Seriously?
Just retired.
Wow.
Does that put it into context?
Can you imagine what she's seen? Well, and even societal change as an attorney.
Oh, absolutely.
And within the scope of her practice, how much societal change did she witness?
Absolutely. I mean, I was thinking about my grandmother who passed away last year, 96 years old, had a wonderful life. She's 96 years old. Her country's 250 years old.
Yeah.
She's alive for in excess of 1/3 of our nation.
I always loved, because our parents, your grandparents, they remember Lindbergh crossing the Atlantic, and, John Glenn going around the world, and also Neil Armstrong landing on the moon. All in one lifetime.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible to think about that. I mean, what was the Wright brothers, 1920 something?
Yeah. Well, they were 1904.
Were they 1904.
Yeah.
So 120 years ago, we were trying to get a glider up.
Exactly.
And now we're talking about colonizing Mars. It's incredible.
What's important for those that want to, celebrate the law, to understand about this concept of the rule of law, insofar as being almost like being good citizens? How do I mean, exercising your First Amendment rights, I think, is kind of keeping that muscle,
Absolutely. And I'm a government lawyer. I represent government entities, and only the government can violate your First Amendment right. And I tell my clients all the time that I don't have to like what somebody's saying, but I'll defend your right to say it until I'm blue in the face.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do. We need people to get out and exercise their rights, people to become engaged in their community, get involved in their local governments, to be an educated voting public as things are moving forward, and to not get hyperbolic when something happens that you don't like.
I think that's the thing, is that if I'm sitting as a borough council member somewhere, there's no pay. This is totally volunteer, and I got somebody screaming at me during Citizens to be Heard. Do I really want to run for re-election? We've got to make sure that we are civil enough to attract civilian statesmen.
We really need to have a re-engagement for civil discourse, how to disagree without being disagreeable. Yeah. For years, I think our country has gotten it wrong where we said we're not going to talk about politics or religion, and we've lost the ability to do that. Right now, if I sit here and say I'm for the purple party and you say you're for the green party or the blue party or whatever, right. I don't care, assign a random color to it. Right. People are going to think that automatically we don't like each other.
Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. My friends are all over the political spectrum, and we can have conversations because we can disagree without being disagreeable. And that's where we need to get back to, where we can have policy discussions without it getting political. That's how we're going to be able to solve a lot of the problems, whether it be at the borough council level or whether it be in the White House.
I want you to both weigh in, and we only have about 3 or 4 minutes left. We talk a lot about workforce and about career pathways and things. And if you were talking to that 8th grader, right, or maybe 8th grade Tim, and to discuss, opportunities and to maybe consider the law, consider being an attorney, what would you say to them? I mean, because I feel like, I feel like that's where the interest starts,
It's an opportunity for you to learn about processes and how things work. Just because you're an attorney doesn't mean that you're going to have to be a transactional attorney, that you're going to have to do closings, that you're going to be in court every day. It's learning how processes and organizations work and then being able to use that to achieve a goal. And, for me, I do talk to a lot of students regularly about what they should do when they're going to be if they want to be an attorney and what you can do with it. You don't ever have to practice a day in your life. You can go run an organization, you can work in nonprofit sector, you can go into government, you can go into business, but the background that you get in understanding processes and how to build an argument and how to support your case, that's the value in being an attorney, in learning how to research, how to frame what it is your discussion is, and recognizing that there's no new ideas. It's just all in how you frame it and bringing the foundation in to support your idea is what's going to carry the day.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how technology is affecting the law. You mentioned AI, but that will always need attorneys. And I think about like these specialized portions of the law. In intellectual property, our patent attorneys and things. Talk about research and
Well, those are some smart guys right there, girls right there who are able to do that stuff. Right. That's my hat's off to them.
You have some very strong patent attorneys around town that have these nationwide practices and things. They're doing well.
I mean, Jonathan DeSilva is a trademark and patent attorney. My God, he teaches it at Penn State Law, and he's still practicing here in Erie, and we're so lucky to have him.
Yeah. I don't know. I think about, a Hollywood attorney, right, or something like that, whether you're representing a client, a celebrity, or, you're representing the studio to make sure that, some foreign entity is not stealing your stuff, right? I mean, there's just so many things to this.
There's so many tentacles to it. And really, just real quick back to Law Day.
Yes, please.
One of the most exciting things that we have is that we have a student-based presentation that morning, 11 o'clock. Last year, we had about 300 students. This year, we've already have a month out, over 300 students registered to come in.
Can you fit some more? Or?
We have the whole Warner.
Okay.
Let's fill it up. We rented
awesome.
it for the day. Let's take it.
That's awesome. And again, remind folks about Law Day at night at 6:30 on
May 6th, 6:30 p.m. is the Law Day ceremony. 7 o'clock is the presentation of History That Doesn't Suck live. It's a phenomenal performance that sells out nationwide on a regular basis. Go to the box office at the Warner Theater, purchase your ticket, get in early, bring your friends. You're not going to be disappointed.
Fantastic. Attorney Tim Wachter of the Knox Law firm, also Katie O'Neill, the Executive Director of the Erie County Bar Association. Happy 150.
Thank you.
And congratulations on all the accomplishments with this special anniversary. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
It is 4:53. It's Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show.